Hey guys, what's up? It's CS back here with another installment, and here's my review for UFC 158, St-Pierre versus Diaz. Overall, guys, I went 8-4 on this card as far as picks. I went 6-1 on the preliminary card and 2-3 on the main card. So yeah, let's just start off at the top and not waste any time. George St-Pierre versus Nick Diaz for that welterweight championship in the main event. Guys, with the way the sport works, the best George St-Pierre will always beat the best Nick Diaz. Guys, Nick Diaz just is a horrible style matchup against George St-Pierre. We saw why. Nick Diaz, of course, sick boxer. However, he is relatively flat-footed and he doesn't have a lot of instant knockout power. And really, that's what it's going to take to beat a George St-Pierre, because you can outstrike him for 10, 20, 30 seconds. However, eventually, he'll find a way to get you to the mat. He'll pop a Superman punch in your face and start pivoting, and all of a sudden, your flat-footed style, you have to reassert your range with George St-Pierre again. And that's kind of hard to do because George St-Pierre, for the most part, is a really mobile fighter. He just didn't have enough strikes to get off against George St-Pierre that would trouble George St-Pierre to the point of where George St-Pierre would falter into a TKO or something like that. But George St-Pierre, for the most part, earlier on the fight, was able to take Nick Diaz down at will like we thought. Nick Diaz really didn't show any sense of takedown defense there. However, when the fight grew on and Nick Diaz spent a little bit more time on the feet, George St-Pierre really was not able to instantly go in for the takedown and actually get it. He was kind of telegraphing it. Nick was actually shaking some takedowns off, so props to Nick Diaz for that. And of course, Faraz Zahabi really gave good advice to George St-Pierre, in my opinion, about taking Nick Diaz down. What kind of takedowns is he going to do? Reactive, and that's what happened. When Nick Diaz was popping him in the face or stalking him, George St-Pierre was able to sweep in for a double leg takedown, and I thought that's, pretty much how you're supposed to do it, as far as, don't telegraph anything. If the guy is thinking one thing, then take him down. Why not? So George St-Pierre really good at exploiting you where you are weakest, and in Nick Diaz's case, that's his wrestling defense. So yeah, not a good look, because that's pretty much why he lost the fight, because once he was taken down, he just didn't have any answer off his back to compete with George St-Pierre's top control. In MMA, top control is just more offensive than whatever you're doing off your back, let's be real. So, Nick Diaz, props to him for fighting off his back, getting some nice strikes in there, going for some nice sweeps, and of course he was trying to roll for like numerous knee bars and omoplatas, but really couldn't get anything off against St-Pierre. St-Pierre's top control, for the most part, is second to none in this sport. So good for George St-Pierre to pick up the unanimous decision victory. Again, he kind of looked telegraphed come 3, 4, and 5 as far as his takedowns. Props to Nick Diaz for stuffing those takedowns and showing some improvement there. If he wants to retire or not, if he does, happy trails to him. If he chooses to stay in the sport, hopefully we see him on a fun-free card against Martin Campbell or someone he can finish. I don't know. We'll see. As for George St-Pierre, I do hope he faces Johnny Hendricks next, and let's actually talk about him right now. Johnny Hendricks faced Carlos Condit. Fun-ass fight. Carlos Condit looked real good as far as the feet is concerned. This is the old-school Carlos Condit that I really liked watching back in the WC, as far as his desire to try to finish you. And sure, Carlos Condit doesn't exactly have a haymaker like Johnny Hendricks does, but what he does have is decent stopping power as far as his straight kicks, as far as his, jabs and crosses like that. So I really like Carlos Condit's style as far as the stand-up is concerned, and he was definitely outstriking Johnny Hendricks from round 2 on. It's just, you really can't win a decision if you're getting taken down 3, 4 times in a round and stuff. So, nice work with the level changes from Johnny Hendricks, so I really appreciate that. I thought that the fight would be standing up a little bit more often, and that's why I thought that Carlos Condit would have picked up this unanimous decision. Seeing as Johnny Hendricks mixed it up as a mixed martial artist, actually taking the fight to Carlos Condit the way he did, I thought that's how Johnny Hendricks was going to win the fight, if he were to win the fight. And again, of course, he did fight like that. So props to Johnny Hendricks for mixing it up. Takedowns, haymakers. Carlos Condit, of course, nasty chin. He hasn't been finished by strikes ever. He was able to take all of that, but of course, too many points on the board for Johnny Hendricks, so he's improving with every fight that we see him, not just punch someone, So I do like that about Johnny Hendricks. He is a student of the game, and he's definitely going to give GSP problems as far as the feet, and if GSP can't take him down. So it's going to be an interesting fight. Hopefully we see something exciting. Who knows? But yeah, that's what I want to see out of Johnny Hendricks next. As for Carlos, I can definitely see Carlos Condit going up against maybe Jake Ellenberger again for a contender shot. So we'll see. Who knows? But again, really nice fight of the night from Johnny Hendricks and Carlos Condit. And speaking of Jake Ellenberger, of course, he knocked out Nate Not-So-Great Marquardt. Now, I thought that Nate Not-So-Great was going to be able to keep Jake Ellenberger at bay with jabs and crosses and hooks, and just be able to pivot and land with kicks and all that kind of technical stuff. I thought that Jake Ellenberger would try to come in for flurries, trying to knock down Nate Marquardt and just really not be so successful at it. However, he was in that first round, and I thought that if he was going to be able to land a knockdown punch and be able to finish with a flurry, I thought that would happen in the first round. So yeah, the more probable Jake Ellenberger outcome, if you did pick him, happened, in my opinion, in that first round knockout. So that's a nice win over a really durable guy, Nate Marquardt, who hasn't been finished since Anderson Silva. So Jake Ellenberger definitely has that in his cap. So yeah, good win for Jake Ellenberger. Who do we want to see him face next? Him versus maybe Damian Maia, I think, would be a cool fight. You might be able to see a contender match, after that. Or if not, again, I did mention him versus Carlos Condit in a rematch. I think that could headline a free card. I think that'd be cool. And yeah, the winner of that could face maybe, George St-Pierre after Johnny Hendricks gets a shot. So yeah, again, there's a lot of things you can do with the welterweight division. Jake Ellenberger looked ultra emphatic in that win. However, again, I think his gas tank is an issue. We'll see how he could deal with a Carlos Condit later in the fight, or other guys who just probably won't gas as hard as he does, because Jake Ellenberger does a heck of a whole lot of moving forward and throwing flurries and stuff, really physically taxing kind of style that Jake Ellenberger has. So that could be his downfall, but he is an exciting fighter, so I'm glad he was able to win the way he did. As for Nate Marquardt, he's probably going to end up fighting top 10 again, or maybe a top 15 kind of fighter. We'll see. Nate Marquardt versus Jordan Mean, I think that would be pretty fun as well. So stay tuned for when I talk about Jordan Mean, hopefully really soon in the show. Anyway, let's move on to that middleweight bout between Chris Camozzi and Nick Ring. I thought Nick Ring got this fight, guys. I thought he won the first 2 rounds as far as his striking is concerned. I thought he did enough of popping the jab in Chris Camozzi's face and pivoting and being able to land hooks. So yeah, Chris Camozzi, I thought he lost those first 2 rounds, but of course, come the last round, he was doing a little bit more of moving forward and trying to hurt Nick Ring with, those flurries, and for the most part he was. Nick Ring looked different cosmetically after the 3rd round compared to after the 2nd round, so good job for Chris Camozzi for trying to go out there and actually finish the fight. So it is what it is. He actually ended up getting the decision. He was doing a little bit of that in the first 2 rounds. I just thought that Nick Ring was doing a better job of just trying to stay offensive and trying to fight his fight. That's why I gave him points in the first 2 rounds to make him win 29-28 on my card. However, only one judge saw it that way, and that's why Chris Camozzi won via split decision. I was pretty confident in Nick Ring too as far as actually looking aggressive, but hey, it is what it is. He kind of faded towards the 3rd round. Anyway, let's move on to that lightweight match that kicked us off on the main card between Mike Ricci and Colin Fletcher. Mike Ricci just pretty much better at everything, able to take Colin Fletcher down as far as the trip takedowns, and he was able to outstrike Colin Fletcher for the most part on the feet. 30-27, unanimous decision. I don't think really anyone debates that. So nice one for Mike Ricci. I'm not sure who he fights in the future, but I don't think he has the brightest of futures in lightweight stacked, and I think there's guys with more potential, but who knows, maybe he hovers around the top 15 in the future. Alright folks, now let's just run through the undercard really fast, starting with Patrick Côté and Bobby Volker in welterweight. Patrick Côté won round 1, Bobby Volker won the 3rd and 2nd round, kind of up in the air, but I give that to Volker, 29-28, but it was 29-28 unanimous decision for Patrick Côté, so it is what it is. Who knows, whatever. Patrick Côté, who does he fight next? I don't know. I don't think he's a factor in this division, but they're going to keep putting him on these Canada cards, so it is what it is. Featherweight bout between Darren Elkins and Antonio Carvalho. All I can say is that Yves Levine struck again. There's nothing you can do about it, unfortunately. Let's move on to welterweight bout between Jordan Meehan and Dan Miller. Jordan Meehan looked nasty as far as the stand-up is concerned. Dan Miller kind of rocked him at one point, but it doesn't matter. Jordan Meehan's word in this fight, his word of the day, his word of the fight was composure. And whatever Dan Miller did to him, he was able to handle, and he had an answer for Jordan Meehan. If he were to knock down Dan Miller, he were to let Dan Miller stand back up. And of course, when he rocked Dan Miller, he was able to finish him off with more punches and some ground and pound. Nicely done by Jordan Meehan. Of course, he had a nice armbar escape as well when Dan Miller took him down. God damn, Jordan Meehan's definitely a talent in the welterweight division, so I'm looking forward to his budding UFC career. I'm really glad he's in the UFC in the big show. As for Dan Miller, he's a really durable guy. Aside from this fight, he was not finished by any of those top 10 middleweights that he did face in the past, so props to Dan Miller for holding that streak for so long, but he just got finished by Jordan Meehan, so it is what it is. I still think that Dan Miller is a force at the welterweight division as far as maybe being a gatekeeper. Now let's move on to that lightweight match between Darren Cruikshank and John Makdessi. Cruikshank was picked by a heck of a whole lot of people, flashier striker, and he has a wrestling background, but personally, I thought that John Makdessi's low center of gravity and his ability to shake off takedowns would win him the fight, including the fact that his striking is not as physically taxing. Makdessi might throw the occasional spinning back kick and connect, or spinning back fist, but really not a lot of wheel kicks, not a lot of things that will gas you out as much as a double leg takedown attempt. So John Makdessi, for keeping it simple yet effective, he was able to stay in the pocket and just outstrike Darren Cruikshank for the most part with, shorter strikes, hooks, and just more conservative kickboxing style. So props to John Makdessi for just getting it done over the course of 3 rounds, 29-28, unanimous decision. As for the Facebook card, Rick Story versus Quinn Mulhern. Rick Story knocked out a 6'3" jiu-jitsu guy who has no idea how to gauge distance on a feet. What can I say? TJ Dillashaw versus Issei Tamura. Issei Tamura got knocked out in the second round. A nice looking head knee kick. I don't know what to call that, but Dillashaw is a force at bantamweight. I think he should definitely get a top 15. George Roop against Reuben Duran. Didn't see this fight, so if you guys want to fill me in on what happened there, please do so. But yeah, I think that about does it for my review. Damn, we're already at 158 UFCs, and of course there's all the other free events and shit. Nicely done, UFC, so I'm looking forward to the next card, which I believe is Gustafsson versus Mousasi. That's the second one in Sweden, so definitely looking forward to that main event. Cannot wait for that. If you guys want to tell me what you guys thought of this card, though, tell me in the comments section below. Subscribe if you haven't yet. And thank you for all the support once again. Like if you like this video. And deuces for all my supporters, bruise for all my haters. And take care.